Wire the $5 billion immediately. Inform the board I will be late due to this unfortunate misunderstanding with personnel.
The security manager did not raise her voice. She did something worse. She looked at Monica Hayes like she was a mistake that had wandered into the wrong room. At Westbridge International Airport, the first-class lounge glowed under soft white lights. Marble floors shone like still water. Leather chairs sat in perfect rows. A grand piano played somewhere behind a wall of glass, its notes floating over the quiet clink of coffee cups and the whisper of expensive luggage wheels. Then Monica walked in. She was 42, tall, composed, and dressed in a simple navy dress that had been pressed clean but had no designer label anyone could recognize. Her hair was pinned back neatly. Her shoes were polished but worn at the edges. In one hand, she pulled a faded carry-on with a small tear near the zipper. In the other, she held her phone with a confirmed first-class boarding pass glowing on the screen. No entourage, no diamond necklace, no loud announcement of importance. Just a black woman moving through a room that had already decided she did not belong. A man in a grey sport coat lowered his newspaper. A woman with pearl earrings paused with her cappuccino halfway to her lips. Two younger passengers glanced at each other, then at Monica's bag, then away too quickly. Monica noticed everything. She always did. She saw the quick judgments, the tightened mouths, the polite soltas that died before they reached the eyes. She felt the air shift around her, not like danger exactly, but like a door quietly locking. Still, she kept walking. At the security desk, Karen Whitmore watched from behind a row of monitors. 51 years old, crisp uniform, silver blonde hair pulled into a severe knot, eyes sharp enough to cut paper. She had worked airport security for more than 20 years, and she believed that experience gave her the right to decide who fit and who did not. Her gaze dropped to Monica's shoes, then to the old carry-on, then to the first-class line Monica had joined. Karen's lips pressed into a thin white line. "That one," she said into her radio. The young attendant beside her, Emily Parker, looked up. "Ma'am?" Karen did not blink. The woman in the navy dress. "End of the priority lane. Check her ticket again." Emily glanced toward Monica and hesitated. She was 27, new enough to still feel shame before procedure swallowed it. Her pass scanned green at entry. Karen turned slowly. Her eyes were cold. "I didn't ask what the machine said. I asked you to check her again." Emily swallowed. Across the lounge, Monica stood quietly beneath a glowing sign marked Priority Boarding. Her face gave away nothing, but her fingers tightened once around the handle of her carry-on. She had spent years entering rooms where people saw her last, doubted her first, and respected her only after someone else confirmed her value. Today was supposed to be another quiet test. Not of Monica. Of them. Emily approached with a professional smile that trembled at the corners. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry to bother you. May I see your boarding pass and ID one more time?" The lounge grew quieter. Not silent. Worse. Interested. Monica turned her phone toward Emily. "Of course." Her voice was calm. Warm, even. The kind of calm that made nervous people more nervous. Emily checked the screen. Monica Hayes, first class, priority access, flight to Seattle, seat 1A. Everything was perfect. Emily looked relieved. "Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Everything looks fine." Before she could step away, Karen's voice cracked through her earpiece. Ask her why she's using priority boarding. Emily froze. Monica heard enough to understand. Her eyes lifted past Emily's shoulder, straight toward the security desk. Across the room, Karen stared back without apology. For one long second, neither woman moved. Then Monica slipped her phone into her bag. Not quickly, not nervously. Deliberately. Like someone placing evidence exactly where it belonged. "I'm flying to Seattle on business," Monica said, clear enough for the nearby passengers to hear. "And I'm using priority boarding because that is what I paid for." The man with the newspaper stopped pretending to read. Karen's jaw tightened. She had expected embarrassment, maybe anger, maybe fear. What she saw instead was control. And control, in the hands of someone she had already underestimated, felt like defiance. Monica stood beneath the white airport lights, modest bag at her side, face calm as stone. No one in that lounge knew that her name sat on a confidential ethics audit tied to a multi-billion-dollar investment review. No one knew that North Star Airways was depending on money controlled by the company she represented. And no one, especially Karen Whitmore, understood that the woman they were treating like a problem had come to decide the future of the entire airline. Karen Whitmore left the security desk like a judge stepping down from the bench. Every step was measured, hard, purposeful. Her black heels struck the marble floor with small, sharp sounds that carried farther than they should have. Heads turned before she even reached the priority lane. People could feel authority coming, or at least what Karen believed authority looked like. Emily Parker stood beside Monica, still holding the edge of her tablet, her cheeks faintly red. She wanted to disappear. She had checked the ticket. She had seen the name. She had seen the seat. Everything matched, but Karen did not care about matching. She cared about appearances. "Is there a problem?" Monica asked. Her voice stayed even, but her eyes had changed. They were no longer soft. They were focused. Watching. Recording, without a camera. Karen stopped inches from her, close enough for Monica to smell the sharp mint on her breath. "That is what we're trying to determine," Karen said. Behind them, a silver-haired woman leaned closer to her husband. "What's going on?" her husband whispered back. "Probably a ticket issue." Probably. That word moved through the lounge like smoke. It gave people permission to assume the worst. Karen tilted her chin toward Monica's phone. "First class to Seattle?" "Yes. Seat 1A?" "Yes." Karen gave a faint smile. Not friendly, not real. A smile made of frost. "That's an unusual seat." Monica did not look away. "It's a seat on an airplane." Emily lowered her eyes. A young man near the coffee bar smirked, then quickly hid it behind his cup. Karen heard it anyway. Her pride tightened. "I'm sure you understand," Karen said, her tone sharpening. "We have to protect premium passengers from people who attempt to access restricted services they did not purchase." The sentence landed in the room with a soft, ugly weight. Monica breathed in once, slowly. She could have ended it there. One phone call, one name, one title. A single sentence that would have turned Karen's face pale in front of every person watching. But that was not why Monica had come. Power revealed too early only teaches people to behave when watched. Monica needed to see who they were before they knew who she was. So she stayed calm. "I showed my ticket," Monica said. "I showed my passport. Your own system confirmed my access." Karen's eyes narrowed. Systems can be manipulated. Emily's fingers tightened around the tablet. The words were too much, Even she knew it. "Supervisor Whitmore," Emily said softly. "The scan was valid. It's confirmed in the database." Karen did not turn her head. "Emily, I'm handling this." The warning was quiet, but Emily felt it like a hand around her throat. She stepped back. Monica noticed that, too. The fear in the young woman's posture, the way her shoulders folded, the way a workplace culture taught good people to shrink before doing the right thing. A man in a navy blazer pulled out his phone, pretending to check messages while aiming the camera in Monica's direction. Karen saw the phone and straightened. The audience made her bolder. "Ms. Hayes," she said, louder now, "I'm going to ask you a simple question. Why are you really in this lounge?" The insult was polished, dressed as procedure, wrapped in a uniform. Monica looked around the room, at the pearls, the watches, the expensive coats, the silent mouths. Then she looked back at Karen. "Because I belong here." 3 words, no anger, no apology. The lounge seemed to hold its breath. Karen's face hardened. For the first time, something ugly slipped through the professional mask. Not confusion, not concern. Resentment. She had expected Monica to explain herself, to soften, to perform gratitude for being allowed to stand where she had already paid to stand. Instead, Monica had drawn a line. Karen leaned closer. People who belong here usually don't have to say it. A few passengers shifted uncomfortably. One older black man seated near the window looked up from his book, his expression tightening with recognition. He knew this scene. He had lived some version of it before. Monica's voice dropped lower. And people with real authority don't usually have to prove it by humiliating strangers. Emily looked up sharply. Karen's nostrils flared. That was the moment the confrontation stopped being about a ticket. It became personal. Karen lifted her radio. "Priority security. Send 2 officers to the first-class lounge." Emily whispered, "Ma'am, is that necessary?" Karen finally turned to her. "Are you questioning me?" Emily went silent. Within seconds, 2 uniformed officers entered through the glass doors. David Miller, broad-shouldered and tense, moved first. Cole Bennett followed with a blank face and restless eyes. Both men looked at Karen before they looked at Monica. That told Monica everything. Karen pointed toward the hallway behind the lounge. "Escort Ms. Hayes to the interview room. We need to verify her identity and travel purpose." The word escort sounded clean. Everyone understood what it meant. Monica reached for the handle of her faded carry-on. The wheels clicked softly as she turned. No protest, no scene. Just dignity moving through a room full of people who had mistaken silence for weakness. As she passed Emily, the young attendant whispered, almost too low to hear, "I'm sorry." Monica paused. For half a second, her expression softened. "Remember what you saw," she said. Then she walked toward the hallway with the officers at her side, Karen behind her, and the whole lounge watching. No one applauded. No one objected. But several phones were recording now. And somewhere inside Monica's bag, her own device was quietly preserving every word. The interview room was colder than the lounge, not by much, just enough to make the air feel intentional. A metal table sat beneath a fluorescent light that buzzed softly overhead. 3 plastic chairs faced each other, like pieces on a board. No flowers, no art, no window. Only a camera in the corner, and a clock on the wall ticking with the dry patience of a courtroom. Monica Hayes set her faded carry-on beside the chair and sat down before anyone told her to. That small act bothered Karen. People under investigation were supposed to wait. They were supposed to ask permission. They were supposed to look uncertain. Monica did none of that. David Miller stayed near the door, arms crossed, trying to look neutral. Cole Bennett stood beside the wall with his radio clipped high on his shoulder, eyes moving from Karen to Monica and back again. Neither officer knew exactly what had happened in the lounge, but both could feel the room tightening. Karen placed a folder on the table, even though it contained almost nothing. "State your full name," she said. Monica folded her hands. "Monica Renee Hayes. Destination: Seattle. Purpose of travel: business." Karen tapped her pen once against the folder. "What kind of business?" Monica looked at the pen, then at Karen's face, the kind covered by a confirmed first-class ticket and a valid passport. Cole's eyes flicked downward. David shifted his weight. Karen's smile disappeared. "Ms. Hayes, you are not helping yourself." "I wasn't aware I needed help," Monica said. The words were quiet, but they struck hard. Karen leaned back, her jaw tight. She had dragged Monica into this room expecting to break her rhythm. Instead, Monica's calm was beginning to expose the weakness in Karen's own. Karen opened the folder. "You understand that airport security has broad authority to investigate suspicious behavior." "I do." "And you understand that refusing to cooperate can affect your ability to board." "I am cooperating." Karen's eyes sharpened. "Then answer the question." Monica's gaze did not move. I answered it. "I am traveling to Seattle on business." A silence stretched between them. The clock ticked. 1 second, 2, 3. Karen felt the officers watching her now. That made her angrier. She needed a crack in Monica's composure. A raised voice, a trembling hand. Anything she could point to and call attitude. But Monica gave her nothing. Only stillness. And stillness in that room became power. Karen lowered her voice. "Let me be direct. This lounge has had problems with people using transferred tickets, stolen accounts, fake upgrades. We can't just let anyone walk in because a phone screen says first class." Monica nodded slowly. "Then you should document the specific irregularity in my case." Karen blinked. Monica continued. "Was my ticket transferred?" Karen said nothing. "Was my passport invalid?" Nothing. "Did the system flag my name?" Karen's fingers tightened around the pen. "Did I threaten anyone? Disturb anyone? Bypass security? Refuse an instruction?" David looked toward Karen. He knew the answer to all of it. "No." Monica leaned forward slightly. The fluorescent light caught the calm lines of her face. "If this is a random inspection, write that. If it is based on an actual security concern, write that. But if it is based on how I looked standing in that lounge, then be careful, Ms. Whitmore. Because that is not procedure. That is exposure." For the first time, Karen's confidence slipped. It was quick, a flicker around the eyes. But Monica saw it. So did Emily Parker, standing just outside the half-open door with a stack of boarding documents she no longer remembered bringing. She had followed without meaning to. Now she stood frozen in the hallway, listening as the room she feared most began to turn against the person who controlled it. Karen snapped the folder shut. "You don't get to lecture me on procedure." "No," Monica said. I get to ask whether you followed it. Cole cleared his throat. Supervisor, her flight boards in 12 minutes. Karen shot him a look. He looked away, but the damage was done. Even the officers were beginning to question the point of this. Monica reached into her handbag slowly. David straightened. Ma'am? Monica paused and looked at him. I'm reaching for a business card holder. Her voice was so steady that his hand dropped back to his side. She removed a small black leather case and placed it on the table. Not opened, not explained, just placed there. Karen stared at it. Something about the object unsettled her. It was too simple, too deliberate. Monica rested one hand beside it. Before this goes any further, I want the report to include the names of everyone present, the time I was removed from the lounge, and the reason I was detained. Karen scoffed, but it came out thinner than she intended. Detained is a serious word. Yes, Monica said. That's why I used it carefully. The clock ticked again. Outside, an announcement echoed faintly through the terminal, calling first-class passengers for North Star Airways Flight 618 to Seattle. Karen heard it. David heard it. Cole heard it. Emily heard it. Monica heard it too. She did not stand. She did not rush. She simply looked at Karen with the quiet patience of someone who knew the ending before anyone else had read the next page. Now, Monica said, are you going to release me to board my flight, or would you like to put your reason in writing first? Karen Whitmore hated the way Monica Hayes said the word writing. Not loudly, not threateningly, calmly. Like paper could become a blade if the truth was sharp enough. For a moment, no one moved. The fluorescent light hummed above them. The clock clicked on. Somewhere beyond the door, the airport kept breathing. Rolling bags, boarding calls. Distant laughter from people who had no idea that inside this narrow room, a powerful system was beginning to show its cracks. Karen looked at the black leather card holder on the table, then at Monica. You're very sure of yourself, Karen said. Monica's face remained still. I'm very sure of the facts. David Miller shifted near the door. He had been in security long enough to know when a stop was clean and when it was turning into something else. This felt like something else. There was no weapon, no forged document, no behavior issue. Just a woman with a valid ticket being pressed harder and harder because his supervisor did not want to be wrong. Cole Bennett glanced at his watch. Supervisor, boarding's already started. Karen snapped. I heard the announcement. Her voice cracked harder than she intended. Emily Parker flinched in the hallway. Monica did not. That irritated Karen more than defiance would have. Anger she could manage. Tears she could dismiss. But this woman's steadiness made Karen feel small in her own room. Karen picked up the folder and opened it again, buying time. Your attitude is becoming a concern. Monica tilted her head. My attitude? Yes. Please describe it. Karen froze. Monica leaned back slightly. Was I yelling? No. Did I refuse to show identification? No, but did I insult you? Karen's mouth tightened. Did I threaten anyone? David looked at the floor. Karen closed the folder with a stiff slap. You are being evasive. No, Monica said. I am being precise. The words settled in the room like cold rain. Outside the doorway, Emily's heartbeat thudded in her ears. She had watched Karen intimidate passengers before. Elderly travelers confused by paperwork, immigrants nervous about accents, young mothers flustered by strollers and bags. But Monica was different. Monica was not begging to be believed. She was making them prove why they doubted her. That was dangerous. Not for Monica. For everyone else. Karen stood. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Fine. You want documentation? I'll document that your behavior raised sufficient concern for secondary screening. Monica's eyes sharpened. What behavior? Karen looked toward David and Cole, searching for agreement. Neither man gave it. Cole cleared his throat. She was standing in line. Karen's head turned slowly toward him. He swallowed but continued. That's all I saw. The room changed, a quiet moral shift, small, almost invisible, but real. Karen's face flushed along the cheekbones. Authority, once questioned, becomes fragile. She felt it slipping. Not completely. Not yet. But enough to make her reckless. She stepped closer to Monica and lowered her voice. You think you're smarter than everyone in this airport? Monica looked up at her. No. I think everyone in this airport deserves to be treated by the same rules. For 1 second, Karen had no answer. Then the radio at Cole's shoulder crackled. Priority passengers for North Star. Flight 618. Final call in 5 minutes. David looked at Monica's carry-on. We should let her go. Karen turned on him. Excuse me. David's voice stayed low. Her documents are valid. We've got nothing to hold her on. The word hold struck the room hard. Karen heard it. Monica heard it. Emily heard it from the hallway. Karen's eyes burned. She had built her whole career on control, and now control was being peeled from her in front of subordinates. She could feel humiliation rising up her throat, bitter and hot. Monica rose slowly from her chair. No rush, no fear. She picked up the black leather card holder and slipped it back into her bag without opening it. That mystery stayed alive. A closed door no one had been brave enough to touch. I'm going to board now, Monica said. Karen stepped into her path. This isn't over. Monica stopped inches away. For the first time, her voice carried steel. You're right. The room went silent. Monica continued, softer now, colder. It isn't. She took the handle of her faded carry-on and walked past Karen. David opened the door for her. Cole stepped aside. Emily lowered her eyes, then raised them again, forcing herself to watch. Monica paused beside her. Emily whispered, I should have said more. Monica looked at the young woman's trembling hands. You still can. Then Monica entered the bright terminal lights, where boarding was nearly complete, and the gate agent was preparing to close the lane. Behind her, Karen stood in the interview room, breathing hard, her face rigid with anger. She believed Monica had escaped. She did not understand Monica had collected exactly what she came for. Monica Hayes reached the gate just as the agent lifted her hand toward the scanner for the last call. The woman behind the counter, a neat redhead named Allison Grant, looked up with a tired smile that vanished the moment she saw 2 security officers trailing several steps behind Monica. For a second, Allison's fingers froze over the keyboard. Ms. Hayes? She asked. Monica handed her phone across the counter. Seat 1A. Allison scanned it. The machine gave a clean, cheerful beep. That sound should have ended everything. Instead, it seemed to make the air heavier. Allison glanced past Monica toward Karen Whitmore, who had appeared at the edge of the boarding area with her arms folded tight across her chest. Karen did not speak. She did not need to. Her stare carried instructions. Allison's smile tightened. "Everything looks good," she said. But her voice had lost its warmth. "You may board." Monica nodded once and stepped into the jet bridge. The hallway stretched ahead, narrow and grey, humming with the low vibration of the aircraft waiting at the other end. Her carry-on wheels clicked against the metal floor. Behind her, the terminal noise faded. Ahead, the open aircraft door glowed like a stage. Monica knew this part. After the public suspicion came the private performance, the polite voice, the cool smile, the service that looked professional enough to deny what it really was. At the aircraft door, Lauren Mitchell stood with one hand resting against the frame. 44 years old, polished brown hair, flawless makeup, uniform pressed so sharply it looked carved. She had the smile of someone trained to welcome important people and the eyes of someone who decided importance before hearing a name. "Good afternoon," Lauren said. Then she looked at Monica's faded carry-on. The smile thinned. Monica saw it. So did the younger flight attendant beside her, a nervous man named Tyler Brooks, 29, who quickly glanced down at the passenger manifest on his tablet. "Ms. Hayes," Tyler said, brightening. "Welcome aboard. Seat 1A is just to your left." Lauren's eyes flicked to the tablet, then to Monica. "1A," she repeated. Not loud, but sharp enough. "Yes," Monica said. Lauren's smile returned, thinner than before. "Of course. Right this way." Monica stepped into first class. The cabin was a world built to whisper wealth. Cream leather seats, soft gold lighting, glasses of champagne glowing on silver trays, a faint scent of citrus, coffee, and expensive cologne. Passengers settled into wide seats with the relaxed confidence of people accustomed to being expected. A man in a navy suit looked up from his phone and studied Monica's bag. A woman with a diamond tennis bracelet paused while adjusting her scarf. In seat 2C, Richard Coleman lowered his magazine just enough to watch her pass. 58, silver hair, red face, the kind of man who filled a cabin before he opened his mouth. His eyes traveled over Monica once, slowly, then dismissed her. Monica placed her carry-on near the overhead bin. Tyler moved forward. "Let me help you with that." Before he could reach it, Lauren's hand lifted slightly. "Tyler, would you check the galley inventory?" He stopped, confused. "Sure." Monica lifted the bag herself. It was heavier than it looked. For one brief moment, the old zipper caught on the edge of the bin. She felt the strain in her wrist, but her expression did not change. Lauren watched. She did not help. Across the aisle, Richard gave a soft chuckle. "Airlines really have opened the floodgates these days," he muttered, just loud enough. The woman beside him pretended not to hear. Monica heard. Lauren heard too. Her mouth did not move, but something like agreement passed behind her eyes. Monica lowered herself into seat 1A. The leather was cool beneath her hand. Outside the window, ground crews moved in bright vests beneath the pale afternoon sky. Everything looked orderly from a distance. That was the lie systems loved most. Order. Lauren approached with a tray of champagne and sparkling water. She stopped first at Richard's row. "Mr. Coleman, welcome back." Your usual sparkling water with lime? Richard smiled like a king receiving tribute. You remembered? Always, Lauren said warmly. She served the woman beside him by name. Then another passenger. Then another. When she reached Monica, the tray was almost empty. Water? Lauren asked. No name. No welcome. No eye contact. Monica looked at the single plastic cup left on the tray. Sparkling, please. Lauren's smile held. We'll see what's available after takeoff. Tyler, returning from the galley, frowned. We have more sparkling water up front. Lauren turned her head slowly. Tyler stopped speaking. Monica watched his courage fold under Lauren's stare. Then she looked back out the window. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Calm face, tired eyes. A woman everyone kept trying to shrink. But inside her bag, the audit file had already grown heavier. Names, times, behaviors, witnesses. The pattern was no longer a possibility. It was becoming a verdict. The aircraft door closed with a heavy click that sounded final. Inside first class, the sound softened the cabin into its own private world. Engines hummed beneath the floor. Overhead lights warmed the cream leather seats. Glasses settled on tray tables with tiny chimes. Outside, Westbridge International Airport slid slowly past the windows, all steel, glass, and bright afternoon glare. Monica Hayes sat in the seat 1A with her hands folded over her phone. She had not touched the plastic cup of still water Lauren Mitchell finally placed beside her. No lime, no napkin, no apology. Across the aisle, Richard Coleman leaned back with his sparkling water in a crystal glass, a green wedge of lime resting against the rim. He tapped it once with his finger, watched the bubbles rise, then glanced at Monica as if the difference between their drinks explained the world. Lauren returned for final cabin checks. Her steps were smooth, practiced, controlled. She paused beside Richard, bent slightly, and lowered her voice into something warm and personal. Comfortable, mister? Coleman? Always am when you're working this cabin, Richard said. Lauren smiled. Real this time. Then she turned to Monica, and the warmth vanished so quickly it felt mechanical. Seatbelt, she said. Monica looked down. The belt was already fastened across her lap. It is. Lauren's eyes flicked to the buckle. She had seen it. Of course she had seen it. But the purpose was not safety. The purpose was reminder. Who commands? Who complies? Lauren nodded stiffly. Make sure it stays that way. Tyler Brooks stood near the galley, pretending to adjust a drawer that did not need adjusting. His shoulders were tight. He had seen enough to understand the shape of what was happening, but not enough courage yet to break it. He thought of his mother in Memphis, a retired school secretary who had once told him, "Baby, silence can keep your job, but it can cost you your soul." His hand hovered over the drawer handle, then dropped. Monica saw his reflection in the darkening window. She did not judge him. Fear was a system, too. The plane lifted into the sky. Westbridge shrank beneath them. The cabin tilted toward sunlight, and for a brief moment everything looked peaceful. Clouds opened like white fields below the wing. Then Lauren began the meal and drink service. Mr. Coleman, your pre-selected lunch is loaded. Grilled salmon, warm rolls, and the Napa Chardonnay. Perfect, Richard said. You people know how to take care of loyalty. Lauren laughed softly. The phrase landed badly. You people. Monica kept her gaze on the window, but her thumb moved once across her phone screen, beneath the folded napkin. A note opened. Time. Seat. Statement. Witness present. Lauren moved through the cabin with polished grace. She called passengers by name, asked about grandchildren, remembered allergies, refilled glasses before they were empty. She became, for them, the face of luxury. When she reached Monica, she did not bend. She stood over her. "We have chicken or pasta." Monica looked up. "I pre-ordered the vegetarian entree." Lauren blinked slowly. "I don't see that here." "Would you check the manifest?" "I just did." Tyler looked up from the galley. "Lauren, I saw a vegetarian special meal on 1A. The cabin quieted by half a degree. Lauren turned her head. Her smile stayed on, but her eyes sharpened. "Tyler, I said I checked it." He swallowed. "Right." Monica's voice remained low. "Chicken or pasta does not work for me." Lauren exhaled through her nose, soft but audible. "Then I can bring you a roll." Richard chuckled into his glass. A woman in 2D shifted, uncomfortable but silent. Monica turned her head slightly toward Richard. Not angry, not pleading, just enough to let him know she had heard. His smile faded. Lauren placed a small bread plate on Monica's tray table. One roll, one foil packet of butter. No entree. "There," Lauren said. "That should hold you." It was the kind of sentence people used for children, or trouble. Monica looked at the roll, then at Lauren. "Please include in your service record that my pre-selected meal was not provided." Lauren's face tightened. "Excuse me." "And include that when your junior attendant attempted to verify it. You stopped him." Tyler went pale. Lauren's cheeks flushed. The cabin pressure seemed to change. "Ms. Hayes," Lauren said, finally using her name like a warning. "I don't appreciate being accused while I'm trying to do my job." Monica leaned back. "And I don't appreciate being treated like my presence is a problem you have to manage." The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Several passengers looked up. Richard's glass paused halfway to his mouth. Tyler stared at the floor, guilt burning across his face. Lauren's smile disappeared completely. For the first time, Monica saw the real person beneath the training. Not just bias, not just arrogance, fear. The fear of being seen clearly. Lauren lowered her voice. "You need to be very careful." Monica's eyes did not move. "So do you." The engines roared softly through the silence that followed, and 30,000 feet above the country, in a cabin built for comfort, Monica Hayes watched the final pieces fall into place. Lauren Mitchell walked back to the galley with her shoulders stiff and her hands trembling just enough to betray her. She hated that Monica Hayes had not raised her voice. A loud passenger could be labeled disruptive. An angry passenger could be framed as threatening. A crying passenger could be dismissed as emotional. But Monica was none of those things. Monica was calm, precise, impossible to twist without leaving fingerprints. Tyler Brooks stood near the coffee maker, pale and quiet. Lauren set the tray down harder than necessary. Silverware jumped. A glass rattled. "What was that?" she whispered. Tyler looked at her. "What do you mean?" "You corrected me in front of a passenger. I saw the special meal on the manifest." Lauren stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a blade. "You saw what I told you to see." Tyler's face tightened. For a second, He looked like he might speak. Then his eyes shifted toward the cabin, toward Monica's seat, toward the roll sitting untouched on her tray table. "She paid for the service," he said quietly. Lauren stared at him. The words were small, but in that galley, they sounded like rebellion. Before Lauren could answer, the interphone chimed. She snatched it from the wall. "First class galley." A male voice crackled through. It was Thomas Reed from North Star Operations, calling from the ground line before handoff closed. "Lauren, we're getting a note from Westbridge Security about passenger Monica Hayes. They said there was an identity verification issue before boarding. Keep an eye on her." Lauren's eyes moved toward the curtain. A smile returned. Not warm, victorious. "Understood," she said. "She's already been difficult." Tyler looked up sharply. Thomas paused. "Difficult how?" Lauren turned her back slightly to Tyler. "Questioning crew service, making notes, challenging instructions." There was a silence on the line. Then Thomas said, "Document everything. We don't need a cabin incident on this flight, already ahead of you." Lauren hung up and reached for the service tablet. Her fingers moved quickly. Passenger 1A. Combative tone. Possible escalation. Refused meal options. Monitoring required. Tyler stared at the screen. "That's not what happened." Lauren did not look at him. "That is how it will be recorded." The sentence chilled him. In seat 1A, Monica watched the clouds stretch beneath the wing like a frozen ocean. Her phone rested face down on her lap now. The audit software had finished syncing the latest notes through an encrypted channel. Timestamps, names, patterns. Each detail clean. Each action preserved. She did not need to fight them. She needed them to keep choosing. Across the aisle, Richard Coleman leaned toward the woman beside him, Margaret Ellis, a retired attorney from Scottsdale who had been quiet since boarding. "These things always get exaggerated," Richard murmured. "Crew has to maintain order." Margaret gave him a long look over the rim of her reading glasses. "That woman hasn't done anything disorderly." Richard scoffed. "You didn't see the security people behind her." "I saw them," Margaret said. "I also saw a young attendant afraid to tell the truth." Richard's smile faded. He did not like older women who sounded like judges. Lauren returned to the cabin holding a tablet against her chest, like evidence. She stopped beside Monica. "Ms. Hayes, I need to remind you that crew members are responsible for maintaining safety and service standards. Continued confrontational behavior may be reported to the captain." The cabin went still. There it was. The escalation. Soft words. Heavy threat. Monica looked up slowly. "Please define confrontational." Lauren blinked. Monica's voice stayed controlled. "Was it confrontational to ask for the meal I pre-ordered?" Lauren's mouth tightened. "Was it confrontational to ask that your service record reflect what happened accurately?" Tyler stood in the aisle now, frozen between duty and fear. Monica turned slightly, including him without demanding anything from him. Or was it confrontational because I asked to be treated the same as the other passengers in this cabin? No one spoke. Even Richard looked away. Lauren's face flushed deeper. She lowered her voice. "You are making people uncomfortable." Monica looked around the cabin, at Margaret's steady eyes, at Richard's clenched jaw, at Tyler's guilt, at the passengers pretending not to listen. Then she looked back at Lauren. "No," Monica said. "I am making people aware." The words cut clean through the cabin. Lauren inhaled sharply, then stepped back. Her authority had not vanished, but it had changed shape. It was no longer absolute. It was defensive. A chime sounded overhead. The captain announced their descent into Seattle would begin soon. Monica turned back to the window. Below the clouds, the land appeared in patches of green and steel. Seattle waited ahead, quiet under a grey sky. Lauren retreated to the galley. Tyler followed but stopped before the curtain. He looked back at Monica. For the first time, he did not look away. And Monica knew the truth had found its first witness. The wheels touched down in Seattle with a hard shudder. A sharp jolt ran through the cabin. Glasses trembled. Seatbelts pulled tight. The engines roared in reverse, filling first class with a deep metallic thunder that swallowed every small conversation. Monica Hayes sat still through it all. Outside her window, the runway blurred beneath grey rain. Seattle's sky hung low and heavy, the kind of sky that made every building look like it was keeping a secret. Lauren Mitchell stood near the forward galley, one hand braced against the wall, eyes fixed on Monica's seat. She had already filed the report. Passenger 1A. Confrontational. Questioned crew authority. Possible escalation. Security history before boarding. The words looked official. That was the danger of a lie written in the language of procedure. It could walk farther than the person who told it. Tyler Brooks stood behind her, silent. He had read the report over Lauren's shoulder. His stomach had tightened with every sentence. It was not just incomplete. It was false. But the plane was landing now, and silence, he was beginning to understand, had a sound. It sounded like guilt. As the aircraft taxied toward the gate, Richard Coleman removed his seat belt before the sign turned off. Lauren hurried toward him with a smile. "Mr. Coleman, please remain seated just a moment longer." He chuckled. "For you, Lauren. Anything." Then his eyes slid toward Monica. Some passengers need more reminders than others. Monica did not look at him. Margaret Ellis did. The retired attorney's face was calm, but her voice carried the dry force of a closing argument. "Careful, sir. Some people talk themselves into becoming evidence." Richard blinked. "Excuse me." Margaret turned back to her window. "You heard me?" Lauren's expression tightened. She disliked Margaret now, too. The plane stopped at the gate. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Instantly, the cabin came alive with clicks, rustling coats, overhead bins opening, phones lighting up. Monica stood last, not because she was unsure, because she wanted every movement to be seen. She lifted her faded carry-on from the overhead bin before Tyler could help. This time, he stepped forward anyway. "Ms. Hayes," he said quietly, "I can get that." She paused, then let him take the handle. It was a small act, but small acts mattered when large systems failed. Lauren watched them from the galley with a hard stare. At the aircraft door, 2 North Star ground representatives waited. One was Thomas Reed, 49, Regional Operations Manager. Tall, broad, expensive tie, tired eyes that had learned to protect the company before searching for the truth. Beside him stood a woman in a navy blazer with a badge clipped to her pocket. "Airport compliance." Thomas looked at Monica, then at the tablet in his hand. "Ms. Hayes?" "Yes. I'm Thomas Reed with North Star Operations. We'd like to speak with you privately before you leave the airport." Lauren came up behind Monica, eager now. "She was warned multiple times, Thomas." Monica turned her head slowly. Lauren stopped speaking. Thomas cleared his throat. This is just to clarify today's events. Margaret stepped into the doorway behind Monica. I witnessed part of today's events. Thomas looked startled. Ma'am, we can take statements later. You should take them now, Margaret said, before your staff edits the story any further. Tyler lowered his eyes, then raised them. I witnessed it too. Lauren's face drained. Tyler, she snapped. He flinched, but he did not retreat. Thomas looked from one employee to the other. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. Monica watched him calculate. Not justice, risk. That was how institutions often discovered morality. Through liability. Ms. Hayes, Thomas said more carefully, if you'll come with us, we can resolve this respectfully. Monica's expression did not change. Respectfully would have been earlier. The words hung in the jet bridge, cold and clean. Thomas swallowed. This way, please. They led her through a side corridor away from the arriving passengers. Fluorescent lights reflected off polished floor tiles. Rain tapped softly against distant windows. Behind them came Lauren, pale and angry. Tyler followed. Margaret insisted on coming too, her purse tucked under one arm, like she had entered a courthouse. At the end of the corridor was a small conference room. Glass wall, long table, bottled water, a screen mounted at the front. Karen Whitmore was already inside. She stood when Monica entered. For the first time all day, Karen looked less certain. Her eyes moved from Monica to Thomas Reed, then to Lauren, then to the airport compliance officer. She sensed something had shifted, but she did not yet understand how far the ground had moved beneath her. Thomas gestured toward a chair. Ms. Hayes, please sit. Monica remained standing. Slowly, she reached into her bag and removed the black leather card holder. Karen's face tightened. Monica opened it at last. She placed a single matte black card on the table. No decoration, no flourish. Just her name, her title, and the seal of Hamilton Global Holdings. Thomas picked it up. His eyes moved across the words, then stopped. Senior Ethics Auditor, Hamilton Global Holdings, Confidential Investment Review Division. The color left his face. Monica looked at Karen, then at Lauren, then at everyone in the room. My name is Monica Renee Hayes, she said, and today was not my failure to prove I belonged. Her voice turned quiet. Sharper than shouting. It was North Star Airways' failure to prove it deserved to survive. Thomas Reed stared at the card as if the paper had grown teeth. For several seconds, no one in the conference room spoke. The rain tapped against the distant glass. The air conditioner hummed. Lauren Mitchell's breathing became shallow. Karen Whitmore stood near the wall with her arms stiff at her sides, her face locked in that familiar mask of authority. But her eyes had changed. They were searching for an exit. Thomas placed the card back on the table with careful fingers. Ms. Hayes, he said, his voice lower now. There may have been some confusion today. Monica looked at him. One look. It stopped him. Confusion is when a gate changes, she said. Confusion is when luggage is misplaced. What happened today was not confusion. The airport compliance officer, Denise Carver, opened a notebook. Her pen hovered over the page. Thomas swallowed. Of course. I only meant that we should review everything before making conclusions. I already have. Monica reached into her bag and removed her phone. She placed it on the table beside the black card. The screen lit up with a secure file folder labeled Field Audit, Westbridge, North Star, Flight 618. Lauren's eyes widened. Tyler Brooks stood near the door, pale but upright. Margaret Ellis sat at the far end of the table, hands folded over her purse, watching like a woman who had seen enough courtrooms to know when a witness was about to collapse. Monica tapped the first file. Audio filled the room. Karen's voice came through, cold and unmistakable. "The woman in the navy dress, end of the priority lane. Check her ticket again." Emily Parker's softer voice followed. Her pass scanned green at entry. Then Karen. "I didn't ask what the machine said. I asked you to check her again." Karen's lips parted. No sound came out. Monica tapped again. Another recording. Lauren's voice. "Passenger 1A. Combative tone. Possible escalation. Refused meal options. Monitoring required." Then Tyler's voice. Quiet but clear. "That's not what happened." Lauren gripped the back of a chair. Thomas closed his eyes for half a second, the way executives do when a disaster becomes measurable. Monica did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "I was questioned after my ticket and passport were confirmed. I was removed from a first-class lounge without a documented security basis. I was placed in an interview room and asked to justify my presence. Then, after boarding, I was denied the same service extended to other first-class passengers. A false report was created to frame my objections as misconduct. Each sentence landed cleanly. Denise Carver wrote faster. Karen stepped forward. I acted within my discretion as security supervisor." Monica turned to her. "Discretion is not a shield for bias." Karen's face tightened. "You don't know what I was thinking." "No," Monica said. "I know what you did." The room went still again. Lauren tried next. Her voice trembled beneath its polish. "I never refused service. I offered available options." Tyler looked at the floor. Monica looked at him. She did not pressure him. She simply waited. That was worse. Tyler lifted his head. His throat moved. "There was a vegetarian special meal for seat 1A, he said. "I saw it on the manifest," Lauren whispered. "Tyler." He kept going, voice cracking, but steady enough. And there was sparkling water. She asked for the same service other passengers received. She was not disruptive. Margaret Ellis nodded once. "That is consistent with what I observed." Thomas rubbed one hand over his mouth. The company man inside him was dying slowly under the weight of witnesses. Monica tapped her phone one more time. A document appeared on the screen. "The Hamilton Global Holdings Investment Review. North Star Airways Service Culture Assessment. Risk Category Elevated." Thomas saw the words and went rigid. "You understand what this affects?" Monica said. He did. Everyone in that room did, except perhaps Karen and Lauren, who were still measuring the damage in jobs and reprimands. Thomas was measuring it in board calls, financing terms, shareholder panic, and a rescue package that had been carrying the airline like oxygen. The Hamilton board was prepared to move forward with emergency funding, Monica said. "After today, I am recommending immediate suspension of that process." Lauren sat down as if her legs had failed. Karen stared at Monica with something close to disbelief. "You would punish an entire airline over a misunderstanding?" Monica's eyes hardened. "No. I would expose an entire airline over a pattern." The words did not echo. They did not have to. They stayed in the room, like a verdict. Thomas looked at Denise, then at Tyler, then at the phone on the table. "What happens now?" he asked. Monica picked up the black card and slipped it back into its holder. "Now," she said, "you decide whether North Star wants to protect the people who created this moment or become the company that finally learned from it." Thomas Reed did not answer right away. Did not. He looked through the glass wall of the conference room toward the bright airport corridor beyond it. Travelers moved past with coffees, coats, boarding passes, and ordinary worries. Delayed flights, missed connections, tired children, lost bags. They had no idea that inside this room, the future of an airline had just cracked open. North Star Airways had spent years polishing its image. Warm commercials, smiling crews, words like care, trust, and excellence printed on every screen. But Monica Hayes had shown them the one thing a brand campaign could not hide: culture. The truth people lived when no one important was supposed to be watching. Karen Whitmore lowered herself into a chair. The hard confidence was gone from her face now. What remained was smaller, older. A woman staring at the consequences of habits she had called instinct for too long. Lauren Mitchell sat across from her, pale, silent, her hands folded so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Tyler Brooks stood by the door, breathing like a man who had just stepped out of deep water. He had spoken. Not loudly, not perfectly, but enough. For the first time all day, he looked at Monica without fear. Denise Carver closed her notebook. "This will require a formal investigation." Thomas nodded slowly. "Immediate suspension pending review for everyone involved." Karen's head snapped up. "Thomas." His voice was tired but firm. "Karen." Not another word. Lauren stared at the table. "I can explain." Monica looked at her. "You already did. All day." That sentence landed softer than a shout and harder than a verdict. By nightfall, North Star's board had received Monica's preliminary report. By morning, Hamilton Global Holdings suspended the emergency investment package. By the end of the week, the story had moved through aviation circles, investor calls, employee groups, and quiet conversations in airport break rooms across the country. Karen Whitmore was placed on indefinite administrative leave. Lauren Mitchell was removed from premium cabin service and entered a disciplinary review. Thomas Reed was ordered to lead a complete service culture audit, this time under outside supervision. Every security and cabin employee tied to Westbridge operations was required to attend new training, not the kind built from cheerful slides and empty slogans, but training shaped around real incidents, real consequences, and the simple truth that dignity is not an upgrade. Monica did not celebrate. She did not smile when the headlines appeared. She did not take pleasure in watching people fall. That had never been the point. The point was the woman in the lounge who had been watched like a threat, the young attendant who had been too afraid to speak, the passenger who had laughed because bias made him comfortable, the crew member who had turned service into punishment, the system that had confused silence with permission. 1 week later, Monica returned to Westbridge International Airport. She walked through the same first-class lounge in a charcoal coat, with the same faded carry-on rolling behind her. The marble still shone. The piano still played. The coffee cups still clicked softly against saucers. But this time, people looked up differently. Some with recognition, some with embarrassment, some with fear. Monica did not need any of it. Near the security desk, Emily Parker saw her and stood a little straighter. Their eyes met across the lounge. Emily gave a small nod, the kind that carried apology, respect, and a promise to be braver next time. Monica nodded back. Then she continued toward her gate. No speech, no revenge, just a woman moving through a space she had always belonged in. Behind her, the airport kept moving. Planes departed, passengers boarded, uniforms passed under bright lights. But something invisible had shifted, not enough to fix everything, never enough in one day, but enough to remind everyone who heard the story that prejudice does not become harmless because it wears a badge, holds a tablet, or smiles from behind a service counter. Monica Hayes had not demanded special treatment. She had demanded equal treatment, and that demand had shaken an entire company. If this story moved you, like this video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and comment "Justice Matters Now."